Hi everyone, welcome back to Acing AP Biology. Unit 6 will focus on energy, thermodynamics, and metabolic reactions. Energy is the ability to spur a change. Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. The kinetic energy of moving particles is called heat, also known as thermal energy. Potential energy is energy due to location or structure. Chemical energy is a type of potential energy where energy is stockpiled in chemical bonds. Once these bonds break, energy is released. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy can be transferred or transformed among matter, but it cannot be created or destroyed. All the energy of the universe remains the same. The second law of thermodynamics states that with every energy transformation, disorder and randomness of the universe increases. The level of disorderedness is measured as entropy. With every reaction involving the transfer of energy, some energy is lost as heat to the surroundings, which increases the entropy of the universe because heat is the most disorderly form of energy. The universe is known as a closed system because all the matter of the universe is separate from other systems. Organisms are open systems because energy can move among systems and the surroundings. Heat is always lost from organisms during energy transformations. An organism's metabolism is the combination of all the chemical reactions in that organism. These chemical reactions are divided among metabolic pathways, which are step-by-step processes regulated by enzymes that transform a particular reactant to a product or set of products. An organism can only use free energy to carry out work and necessary functions. The amount of free energy is determined by the overall energy of the system, the entropy, and the temperature. Free energy cannot be measured directly, but the change in free energy with each reaction can be quantified with this formula. When delta G is negative, the reaction is spontaneous, meaning that it can occur without an energy input from the organism. When delta G is positive, the reaction is non-spontaneous, meaning that it requires an energy input. Furthermore, spontaneous reactions often drive non-spontaneous reactions in organisms. When delta G equals 0, the reaction has reached equilibrium, meaning that the forward reaction and reverse reactions are occurring at the same rate, and there would be no net change in the amount of free energy available. Therefore, work cannot be conducted and cellular processes would stop. So in order to prevent equilibrium from being reached, reactions are arranged into metabolic pathways. In these pathways, the products from one reaction are used as reactants in the next reaction, so equilibrium can never be reached. There are two prominent forms of metabolic pathways: catabolic or exergonic and anabolic or endergonic. Exergonic reactions release free energy. This energy can be used to do work. It is a spontaneous reaction, so delta G is negative. The products have less energy than the reactants. In these reactions, more complex reactants are broken down into simpler products. An example of an exergonic reaction is cellular respiration. Endergonic reactions require free energy to occur, so energy is absorbed from the surroundings. It is non-spontaneous, so delta G is positive. The products have more energy than the reactants. In these reactions, simple reactants are transformed into complex molecules. An example of an endergonic reaction is photosynthesis. Now let's look at some energy diagrams. The energy diagram for an exergonic reaction reveals that reactants have more energy than products. So energy is released in this process, and delta G will be negative. Even though this process is spontaneous, it requires some energy input to break and reform bonds. This energy is called activation energy. The state at which bonds are being broken and transformed is called the transition state, and this state is very unstable. Once the state is overcome, the reaction will take place. In endergonic reactions, the products have more energy than the reactants, so delta G is positive. In addition, endergonic reactions require more activation energy. And finally, let's talk about ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. ATP is a cell's source of energy to conduct its functions. ATP drives mechanical work like muscle contraction, transport work like an active transport, and chemical work like powering endergonic reactions. ATP is composed of adenine, a nitrogenous base, ribose, a pentose sugar, and 3 phosphate groups. Energy is stored in the high-energy unstable bonds between the phosphate groups. When ATP is broken down into ADP in an inorganic phosphate, this bond breaks, releasing energy. The high-energy inorganic phosphate can be transferred to another molecule, phosphorylating it and making it more reactive. ATP is continuously recycled by the cell, reproducing ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. That's it for this lesson. In the next video, we will be reviewing enzymes and their role as catalysts in metabolic pathways. See you then. For more bio content, hit subscribe.